Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Are you passionate about piano and keyboard education? Then mark your calendars for an event that's set to elevate your teaching skills to new heights. The National Conference for Keyboard Pedagogy is back, and it's bigger and better than ever. Join us for our online conference on June 7 and 8, 2025, and our in-person conference, July 23 to 26, 2025, in Lombard, Illinois, for an unforgettable gathering of educators, performers, and industry experts. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this conference offers something for everyone. Dive into workshops led by renowned instructors, discover cutting-edge teaching techniques, and connect with like-minded individuals who share your love for music education. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to learn, grow, and be inspired. For more information, visit nckp2025.com today.
I am Sara Ernst, Director of Teacher Engagement at the Francis Clark Center. Today's guest is Sean Chen, and I'm delighted to join him today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let me just read a little bit about you and your career. Sean Chen is an American pianist who in 2013 was the third prize winner of the Cliburn International Piano Competition. In addition, in 2013, he was a recipient of the DeHaan Classical Fellowship of the American Pianists Association. He has performed worldwide with conductors such as Leonard Slatkin and ensembles such as the Brentano Quartet. In addition, he is a professor at the University of Missouri in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
It's a delight to have you here.
I'm really glad to be here.
Excellent. So we want to start way back when.
Oh, okay.
Okay, way back when you first started piano. So tell us about those first experiences and maybe even what got you to piano in the first place.
Sure. I think there's a couple of different ways I could take this in terms of like kind of official training versus some, kind of other stuff that have helped me kind of extend some of the non-traditional parts of what I like to do. But I started, I think, officially around 5. I know one of the first times I took piano lessons was actually in Taiwan because my grandparents' next door neighbor was a piano teacher. And we were moving from Florida to California, and we kind of took a detour to stay in Taiwan for I think it was like 8 or 9 months or something like that. And so, yeah, that's like, I think I took a couple of lessons or something like that. And then when we came back to the States, then my mom signed me up for full-time lessons. I think it was around 5.
So do you have musicians in your family? Was it kind of like a family tradition in a way, or not really?
So yes and no. My dad's dad, my paternal grandfather, he's still around. He was a big traditional Chinese instrument. He wasn't professional. He was amateur, but he taught community orchestra and I think lessons. He was sort of a Renaissance man. He is sort of a Renaissance man, kind of painted and wrote calligraphy, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there was music. My dad played guitar. I think he was in guitar club in college or something. And when I was, even still until now, he plays the guitar. He likes to do that. I think my mom wishes she had the opportunity to take lessons when she was a kid. So both my brothers studied both piano and violin growing up.
Excellent.
Yeah. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So what do you remember about those first, do you remember being a 5-year-old at the instrument?
Not particularly. I do remember actually probably before that, my parents had, we have a family friend who was studying at the university in Florida, maybe, who was a music major. And so she took me to play my first acoustic. I think it was an upright, but that was my first experience at a acoustic piano. We had a small electric keyboard at home. I don't really remember much in terms of like musical experiences. I remember the pieces I studied, with the first early teacher. Yeah. It was, Thompson and Sebastian, books, and then some, the first Prelude and Fugue. But I don't think I ever managed to learn the fugue when I was that day. I think I was like 6 and something like that, or 7, 6. And I mean, in hindsight, I think it was a good thing, but she tried to teach me theory and how to write a fugue at the ripe old age of 6 or 7. I just it
Wow.
went over my head, and then I switched to Edward Francis
Mhm.
when I was 8, and I studied with him till I was 18. So yeah, I remember pieces that I played, and you know, I depends on what kind of specific memories you're looking
Yeah,
for,
well,
specific
I'm just
perspective.
curious, if you were really drawn to the
Hmm.
instrument at a young
Yeah,
age and what drew you there and
sure.
yeah.
I think two things. Uh, I love working with my hands and my fingers. I
Uh-huh.
like to do origami, and I like to build Legos, and so I think I
Uh-huh.
enjoyed the tactile nature of playing piano.
Mhm.
And I think I also had a pretty good ear. I liked to play by ear, like the video game music,
Yeah.
and my dad listened to lots of 70s music, James Taylor, Eric Clapton, Don McLean. So I would jam with him.
Oh, that's
We had
wonderful.
anthology books, but I would kind of read it and kind of just play by ear. And that's the sort of what helped me kind of develop the improvisation and playing by ear and composing side. It was
Yeah.
just like pop music, and just not being formal about that side while
Right.
still doing the technique.
Yeah,
And
while still doing the formal
yeah,
work.
yeah.
Yeah. And then what was the second teacher? His name was
Edward Francis.
Edward
Yeah,
Francis. And what
Edward
were
Francis.
lessons like with Edward Francis?
I don't really remember the specifics.
Mhm.
He's very good at choosing pieces that excited me, actually. Like, I was always looking forward to, like, oh, what piece is he gonna
Oh,
give me next?
yeah.
Um he I remember, I still have scores where he has markings, from
Oh,
when
I
I was a
love looking
kid.
back at
Yeah.
those. Aren't those lovely?
Yeah, I remember he would draw, like, if I need to take a break somewhere, he would draw, for phrasing, he would draw a smile, like a big face with big eyes and a big mouth, like, you gotta take a breath kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early emojis.
Right. Well, definitely. And he put dates when he wrote comments. And so
Mhm.
he could, like, go back and be like, I told you, 4 weeks ago you did this,
Right, yeah.
and you didn't do it yet.
Yeah.
Um, I really, he was very good for me. And I think that he realized what was important for me was to keep me excited about learning new
Yeah.
pieces. And so I was very grateful for that.
Do you remember what some of your favorites were when you were young?
Uh, the Ravel Concerto, first movement,
Mhm.
Alvarado. He realized I liked Ravel. I love Ravel to this day. He
Okay.
realized I like Ravel. Um, I played the Rachmaninoff Moment musical.
Mhm.
Um, Barber Hesitation Tango. I liked that a lot. It's
Mhm.
from is it from Souvenirs? I think it's from Souvenirs.
Oh, yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
I liked that a lot. Yeah. Bach Partita, the D major one.
Uh,
I loved the opening, the French overture with the fugue in it.
do you return to those pieces?
I have not the Bach, but the other some of the other
Yeah.
pieces definitely. Ravel I've returned to a lot. Yeah, it's especially actually when I was doing competitions, I returned to pieces that I, you know,
Mhm.
played before, and then I learned the rest of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like the French Suite number 5 in G major.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
with Edward I played the Gigue, the Sarabande and the Gigue.
Mhm.
For we in California we have Bach Festival. Where you
Okay.
every year you
Mhm.
learn a Bach piece, or Baroque Festival. I think you could. That wasn't just Bach. Maybe it was just Bach. Anyway, but then when I was in college, and I brought back those two, I've learned the rest of the
Mhm.
suite, and it's nice when you have a history with a piece like that,
It
as long as it's
is.
not traumatic.
Indeed. Indeed, but you come back to it and you see it and
Right.
hear it
Yeah.
differently, but
Yeah.
then it's somehow familiar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've well, if this is not quite probably chronologically what you want to get to, but tomorrow I'm playing 4 Chopin ballades, and I've played those a long time ago,
Mhm.
and I feel like as I was bringing it back for this, I was like, I have a lot of emotional and baggage with these pieces,
Yeah.
that and habits too, where these things are hard to fix.
Yeah, once
Yeah,
you've done it a certain way,
yeah,
right?
but
Yeah.
it's not supposed to
Mhm.
be that way,
Mhm.
but yeah.
So I'm very curious. I mean, you went on to participate in the Van
Mhm.
Cliburn. Were you drawn to competitions early on? Was that something that really motivated you and that you enjoyed?
I don't know if it. So I remember one instance I was doing competition in California, just high school when I was in high school, or maybe it was earlier. Maybe I was in middle school. It was a concerto competition. I played Chopin E minor first movement, and I did not win, and I was really sad about it.
Hmm.
And my parents were kind of like, "Well, if you don't can't handle it, then don't do the competition. Like, we're not forcing you to do it.
Ah.
And I kind of thought about it. I was like, okay, yeah, I wanted to do this competition. And I guess, happens when you don't
have
win.
to accept the results,
yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
so I think that, it seems like trite to talk about it like that, but I think it's important to tell yourself, to like actually concretely tell yourself this, like, yes, I want to do this for whatever reason, whether it's because your career or you just enjoy doing competitions or you want something to work towards. But along with that comes, disappointment. Maybe, possibly, probably, most likely. And so I always, my Edward would sign me up for local stuff, maybe some a little bit bigger, some regional, some when I was a little older, some international, junior competitions. Right. And then when I was in conservatory, I made it sort of a point to do at least one big one a year, especially because they're usually in the summer and you get to travel and see these places,
right.
In Japan or in Korea, in Europe. So I sort of used them actually as an excuse, both one to travel and two to learn pieces, which is, I don't recommend students do that nowadays,
right.
but I was kind of like, I used these competitions as motivation to learn new pieces for it.
Right.
Which, like I said, I wouldn't recommend students do it these days, but I it was what kind of kept me excited again, just like, with
right.
Edward, just like learning new pieces that I wanted to learn. That was what kept me excited. So yeah, and I did lots of competitions. And I think certain people are just gifted, I think, at doing it, or their teachers prepared them well. But I had to spend a lot of time figuring out what worked for me, from everything from like preparation to repertoire choices to, how to ramp up preparing for them. Yeah. So it was good that I did a lot of them, because I don't think, I definitely wouldn't have been successful just like starting, Cliburn,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's such an intense competition with so many rounds to it, right?
So a lot of it is just like learning about yourself and learning how you react under pressure. And also, one of my other theories is that a lot of these competitions have similar juries. These professors and musicians and pianists, they get asked to judge all around. And part of it is also getting them used to your musicality. The more you do competitions, and if you perform, I mean, if you bomb, that's one thing. But if you play well, but you didn't win or didn't get past this round, but you're trying to show your musicality and stuff, I think people start to get used to like how you see music and how you feel it and how you play. And I have a little inkling that might be what was going on too. Obviously I was getting better, but I was definitely more consistently getting to later rounds in competitions as I was getting closer to the Cliburn.
Yeah. So do you think then that process for yourself then also helped your kind of creation or exploration of your own voice in that way as a pianist? Or do you think it was more people getting to know who you are versus yourself?
I think in terms of the competitions, it was more the latter. I mean, when you're practicing and you're working with your professors and teachers and you're just doing your normal practice, that's where you're doing your exploration. You do have to play the game a little bit with competitions, I think. It depends. You have to know what kind of competitions, like historically. I wouldn't overthink it, but for example, I did some stuff for the American Pianists Awards, repertoire-wise, that I would not do for the Cliburn, that I did not do for the Cliburn.
What would be an example of
like
that?
playing my own transcription of the valse. So I did that for APA. I did not do that for a Cliburn. But what I did do with Cliburn is I played the Petrushka arrangement, Stravinsky. But I didn't put it on the program, but I added stuff from the orchestral version into my performance of Petrushka. And so, I can only stifle my own voice so much before, to a certain extent. But yeah, and so you do have to kind of be aware of these things. Right. Yeah, you don't have to sacrifice your musical integrity or voice, but you can tailor it to situations. And it's the same for, when we're performing just in general for different presenters. Sometimes they come to you asking for certain things,
specific things
or certain styles that they know their audience likes, and you can't, be like, no, I want to play, what I want to play. Yeah. So
tell me a little bit more about kind of post-18 studies. What was that like for you, and who did you study with?
So I went to Juilliard, studied with Jerry Lowenthal for both my undergrad and master's. and then starting my senior year, I also studied with Matti Recalio. And then, so I got my master's, undergrad master's there. Then I went up to Yale School of Music and studied with Hongquan Chen for artist diploma. So yeah, those were my three teachers. I loved studying with all of them. They brought sort of, I think, very complementary, but also very orthogonal viewpoints in interpreting music. Jerry's this kind of, he's all full of the spirit of music, making you hear like Cortot and Capel and all these things when he plays. And he was a French literature major. I remember once I was taking a class about Proust and his big work In Search of Lost Time. And I told Jerry, and for the first 30 minutes of the lesson, he recited from memory the for whatever, and then in French, and translated it paragraph by paragraph into English. And I just sat there for like 30 minutes, just kind of just dumbstruck.
Well, yeah, what else could you do, right?
But just like
wow,
the fact that he's my piano professor, but he could also he's so knowledgeable about something, and I think it obviously speaks to his kind of holistic knowledge of culture and all the stuff going on. And that was very impressive to me. And but I think Jerry is a teacher that you have to do a lot of, you hear him play, he gives you instruction, you hear him play, but it's not always obvious how to achieve the same result. And you have to do a lot of searching by yourself in the practice room. Like what was he trying to say? How do I get that result? So when I studied with Matti is very, at least from my point of view, was really about, making sure you try to divine what the composer wanted by really paying attention to what's on the score. I mean, every teacher says that, but he was very, and he kind of, there was some guidelines on how to interpret slurs and articulations and markings. When you are older and you're performing, you might think, okay, it's a little formulaic, but I think as a student, it was super helpful to have like that. Where should I start from? Where's my baseline for interpretation?
Very concrete.
Exactly. And so instead of thinking like, how do I make this expressive and stuff, you say, okay, this has a slur on it. There's a staccato here. This is forte piano. I have a general idea of what it's supposed to sound like.
Right.
And I think that was very, and also in terms of structure, this piece in sonata form, or it's a rondo, or whatever variations. How do I, what's a good general guideline to approach these sections and to organize the whole piece? So I thought that was really, especially after studying with Jerry, who's a little bit more nebulous sometimes.
He made you seek.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Right. Yeah.
And Matti was a bit more concrete, and I felt like, okay, this was really interesting because I kind of got two parts of that. And then when I went to Hongquan, it was really a lot of exploration about, okay, now you know what you want here in your head. What do you want it to sound like? How then do you transfer that and execute it on the piano? And what I really enjoyed was a lot of times Hongquan would just practice with me. We would be working on a passage and he'd be like, well, let me hold on. And he would try and demonstrate a little bit. And he'd say, you try that. And then everything, from where your elbow placement was, how you're sitting, where your hand position. And it was really interesting as a student because it's like, oh, there's not one right way to do it. He's working with me to find, the sound.
It's a problem solving process. Yeah.
Very much so. And also in terms of musicality, there's not one right way to do it. If you make a choice here, that's going to affect the choice coming down the line. So there are many perfect ways to do it, but it just depends on the choices you take. And if you do something that doesn't match a previous choice, then you get some mismatch, then you get things that might not sound proportional or effective. But if you are aware of these choices, at least that's what I got. Maybe, if he hears this podcast, he'll be like, that's not what I thought. But that's what I got from it. And I really appreciated that.
Right. And so much of like, being a learner is about what you need in the moment. Right.
Yeah.
So, right. Like you think about the teacher who made you seek and discover versus the one who gave you really concrete goals and guidance versus the one who helped you find problems and solutions. Right. I mean, that's all. It was really, I'm wonderful.
really grateful for whether it's their perception about what I needed or just the diverse viewpoints. And the last thing I will say about all three teachers, I really appreciated that. And this is to preface, like, you can be a wonderful teacher and not actively perform. Like, there's so many so many ways to be a great teacher. But I really enjoyed that, especially when I was playing something like Bartók's Second Concerto, which not many people play, but all three of my professors had played it before. And so they give you just little tips and tricks that aren't really about the music making, but they're just like, it could be in a concerto. And I remember Lowenthal saying, okay, in this part, you really have to know the violin line here, because the counting is really kind of awkward. And if you're not paying attention, you can lose yourself. So just memorize the violin line, and that'll be way better. Little tips like that unless you've played it with orchestra before, you wouldn't be able to give your students. So I really appreciated that perspective and the things that part of the instruction that they brought. So.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. And then I think back to what you were sharing about your childhood teacher and this idea of really giving repertoire that sparks a desire and sparks interest. Right?
Yeah.
And then also to this idea of that you also had a kind of separate musical outlet as a child playing with your father. Right? So tell me more how you have taken that forward.
Sure.
Do you still play with your father?
We don't jam that much anymore. Well, when he visits, I mean, he has his guitar in California and Taiwan, and when he comes visit us, it's just to see the grandkids. So they don't have much time to jam. But as a result of watching it, I know a little bit of playing the guitar, and I think that part of my music making, I think, is also very important for the formal part, because of the flexibility and adaptability. Playing by ear, I encourage everyone to try to learn. I know, I have perfect pitch, so it makes it a little easier, but I know plenty, like jazz pianists, not all, a lot of them don't have perfect pitch. They have really good relative pitch. They know chord qualities and things like that, and they listen that way. And if you're coupled that with good harmonic theoretical background, you don't have to be so scared on stage. Yeah, memory slips still happen. Everyone has memory issues, but you are way more comfortable in just going and getting yourself out of things if anything happens.
Yeah, because your ear can carry you
exactly
in a different way.
And then I developed, when I was a kid, I really actually wanted to be a video game music composer, because I loved that stuff. And I would work on a sequencer and just write music that kind of imitating some of the video game soundtracks. But I started doing so before I got into arranging, I mentioned I also studied violin, and I wanted to play an orchestra because piano is a kind of a lonely instrument.
Indeed it is.
So after got better at violin, I joined the youth orchestra, and I really loved orchestral repertoire, and played stuff like Romeo and Juliet Overture, Beethoven symphonies, and things like that. And I would always, like, after go home and just like play it by ear on the piano, because I was like, oh, this is a really cool piece, cool stuff. And I wanted to do it. And that kind of led me into doing transcriptions, because you're just kind of solidifying, what your ears and fingers are doing. And once you do that, you start doing a little composition and things like that. So that kind of improvisation, all that stuff just stems from my love of music, listening to different things, and then trying to recreate it on the piano. So that's kind of how it got started. And then the building up the courage to actually program it and put it on concerts was a separate issue, but I'm glad that I took that leap. And I do some improv in concerts sometimes. I play my own arrangements or compositions.
So do you remember kind of the first time that you did it? You took that leap?
So I'm playing the La Valse arrangement tomorrow.
Excellent.
And I remember that was the first one I did. I was at Aspen Music Festival, and I had known about La Valse. I heard Maniacs and Yefim Bronfman played in LA. But I spent a lot of time at Aspen at the music library and listening to recordings, and I listened to La Valse a lot. And I was like, I'm going to make a transcription of it. I knew, there's a bunch of transcriptions that already exist. Glenn Gould has one. There's an Ikarev version. There's obviously Ravel's own one piano, two piano. There's a Lucien Garban arrangement of it. So yeah, there's all these things, but none of them really matched what I heard in my head. I think when I thought about La Valse, the orchestral version, the Ikarev is close, but it's actually not playable. So that's a different issue.
I don't know it. So
It's back in the days where we had online piano forums. I mean, they still exist, but online piano forums, and this was in the ether or whatever. Some people knew about it, so I got the sheet music to it. Some Russian, I don't know, professor or pianist who made the arrangement, but it's sort of like maximalist, like everything you can put in the music from the orchestral version that's in there. And I kind of started off like that. That's kind of but it was so that I could do it so that I could play it. But as I've been doing transcriptions more and more, I've gotten a little bit more judicious about how many notes I put into things, because it can be tempting to be like, oh, I love this little texture in this part, or I love the horn part in here. But not everything is going to work. Part of the challenge is also giving the illusion of all these things happening, but making it pianistic. So yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. That was in 2005, 4 or 5. So I actually finished, quote unquote, the arrangement either that summer or the next summer, but it wasn't until like 2011 or 12.
Oh wow!
That I actually programmed it. I think I programmed it for a concert in Taiwan. I was like, "This is across the pond. Nobody's gonna know.
There's some safety
I'll do it.
there.
If it's horrible, then it's horrible." And then the second time I did it was for the APA competition. I was like, I knew the competition was more looking for unique voices, as musicians, as pianists, and not necessarily just like playing all the standard repertoire stuff. So I was like, okay, I think this will be more of a net positive.
Well, and it obviously worked.
Well, yes, and I know some of the jury members were not really excited about it, but I think in
the overall scheme.
the overall presentation of what I value in music, what I like in music, this was a component. It wasn't the only thing. Right. So so I'm glad it worked out. It could have not worked out, and then you wouldn't have, I wouldn't be playing any transcriptions because I would be so bitter about it. But
isn't it interesting to think about, right? Yeah. So I wonder, you mentioned kind of early on in high school, I think you said there was a moment where you had not such a favorable result in the competition, right? And you had to figure that out for yourself, right? Are there any other particular challenges that you've faced that have kind of really made an impact on you and where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. Well, another anecdote about kind of in a similar vein of that, it's just more about mindset. I remember Lowenthal telling me, you have to prepare competitions to win, but you can never expect to win. Nobody deserves to win. Yeah. So you have to prepare like you are going to win. Yeah. But once you do that, nobody deserves anything really. Right? I mean, especially with so many external factors in the competition. Yeah. I remember one other time of kind of doubt, I guess. And that was when I was doing my artist diploma auditions. I wanted to get back in Juilliard for artist diploma, but I didn't. And I also, NEC didn't take me even past the pre-screening. So I did get into Yale. I was happy about that. But I was sort of like, well, if I can't get into the top, and I was also doing computer science on the side at Columbia University, because at Juilliard, I wasn't a double degree. It was at Juilliard, you can apply to take courses at Columbia if your grades are, I think it's your first year there or first semester. I don't remember if it's a year or semester. If your grades are good enough, then they allow you to take one course a semester at Columbia, included in your tuition. And the nice thing is you can opt to take them pass fail. So it's really just about like knowledge, about learning a skill. So I took everything. I took like intro to quantum computing, took financial economics. My dad's a statistician, so he said you should take some economic stuff. Took some of that. Took a lot of computer. I got into computer programming, and I really enjoyed that. And actually, my computer graphics professor recommended me to apply for internships that summer, and I was pretty far along in the process. The next step would have been to commit to one of the companies that wanted to have me there for the summer, but it would be a summer long commitment. Right. So if I had any competitions, you'd have and performances, I don't think they would have been like, oh yeah, you can just leave for,
Yeah.
a weekend. It's not,
You're right.
real jobs don't let you
Yeah.
do that. So I was very close to doing that, but then I had some stuff come up in the summer, and then I knew the APA. So I did know that I already gone to the APA, American Piano Association. So that was coming up in the fall. So it was sort of like, well, I think I should like still practice and focus on and see if this will work. But I think it might have been that like if that didn't work out, and
so you
then Cliburn, then I might have, after artist diploma, I might have switched to computer programming or graphics. Yeah,
isn't life fascinating?
It's strange, but
yeah,
I think as long as you're curious about things and you are true to yourself. I mean, I think I would have wanted to, if I couldn't have make a career out of performing, I think I would have wanted to step away from music because I wouldn't have been happy just being peripherally involved. At least at that point, that was my mindset. Maybe it would have, changed later, but you lay out these plans for yourself. They might work, they might not work.
Yeah, so I could be talking to Sean Chen, computer programming.
Yeah,
right.
And I do. I mean, I'm grateful that
do you still program?
Yes, I do. And actually, so my website I programmed completely by myself. Mostly pretty much all by myself. My brothers are software engineers, so they helped get me started. Like a long time ago, right after the Cliburn, actually. But yes, I do all that myself and maintain it, and I enjoy it because it's way more concrete than anything artistic. You have to be creative and for searching solutions, but it's like it's pretty. It's all very logical, If it doesn't work, it's your fault. It's not that someone doesn't agree with it. It's not that computer doesn't agree with your interpretation of the facts.
Right. Well, but if you talk to computer programmers, they will also talk about elegant code.
Sure, and that's true,
right?
and that's important too. But I think that's probably a little bit above what I'm just getting. I'm just interested in getting to work and not crash and no bugs. Of course, there are bugs everywhere on my website, but I like that kind of left brain stuff as well. I mean, but music is also very logical, and when I play, so I really have come to enjoy. I know that sounds silly. When I was going into conservatory, part of my desire to go into music was to prove the haters wrong, because I had a lot of family friends who were like, "You shouldn't do music. You're not gonna make any money. You're not gonna make it. And if you even make it, you're not gonna make much money."
No, there are a lot of skeptics out there.
And at that point felt I was, I'm a very logical, like left brain person. I felt that I wanted to prove to myself I could be a good interpreter and make good expressive music, because I felt it inside, but I don't think I knew how to express it. And so part of it was a challenge for myself to get good at, or to understand how I'm supposed to be expressive in music. And it was something that I felt I wasn't good at, and I didn't really enjoy because I was not good at it. But I obviously, having gone through school and played a long time, it's something I really enjoy in terms of finding, okay, what kind of emotion I want to convey in this piece? What kind of feeling do I want the listener to feel, or that I remember feeling when I heard this piece? And then you work backwards. Okay, that's the result. How am I going to make that happen? What actual executable things can I extract from? I mean, a lot of it is figuring out. You just play and you experiment and you let your feelings guide you. But then at a certain point, you have to distill those feelings and like, what am I actually doing to make it sound that way? And I enjoy that problem solving aspect of it. It's kind of like debugging in a way.
Yeah. So now it makes me want to ask about you as a teacher, because that's a different process when you have another person where you're helping them to discover that and find that and explore that. So how has that been for you as an instructor?
It's a very interesting experiment and experience for me, because I'm always trying to think, okay, am I doing the right approach for this student? I have a default approach I like to do. I'm very logical. I like to talk about the form, talk about articulations, which reflects kind of my teachers.
Sure.
And it also depends on the kind of piece, because if it's something, I think French pieces just draw the Lowenthal out from me.
Oh,
and so I go into
interesting.
like
Yeah,
more the
you've
spirit
gotta
of the music
seek a lot.
making
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
the imagination.
Mhm.
But it sometimes I have to remind myself to take a step back and be like, okay, what is this working? Do I need to try a different approach
For this
for
student,
this student?
for this moment.
And
yeah.
I'm still relatively young, and I think I still have a lot of room to grow in terms of being able to more efficiently pinpoint, like, oh, this student needs more of needs me to be maybe even more strict about not letting them get away with stuff. Whereas some other students I know, like, okay, they'll fix it next time. But
Yeah.
yeah, because I didn't like. I don't like people being too pushy with me. Like I'm like, I'll get it. I'll work on it. I'll get it. I remember what you say, but not everyone's like that.
Right.
Some people want to be a little bit more strictly guided,
Yeah.
and so
it makes me think back to your teacher who put the dates in your score.
right, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so, for example,
Uh,
I even as a student didn't really write stuff in my score. Sometimes my teacher, Lowenthal didn't really write too much stuff. Mati wrote a lot of stuff. There's big circles and lines and big all caps.
Yeah, and then you open the book and just think so fondly of your teacher, right? And you see all those things. Yeah.
And so sometimes, again, I have to remind myself, like, oh, I should go write it in their score because, if they're not writing it, I have to first think like, okay, are they going to remember it? Based on my
Right.
experience of teaching them, because I know I don't like to write stuff in my score, but maybe they need to. So that's stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
very
no,
very.
You have to learn about
psychology of
Right,
teaching.
no,
It's not
it
so much like,
is.
are you a good pianist? It's like, are you actually are you good at understanding people?
Oh no,
I
it's very
think,
true,
yeah.
right? Because and it's interesting how that can even change through the course of working with a
Right.
student where their needs will change over
Right,
time.
definitely,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I try to channel like my teacher when I was growing up, like trying to get them interested about repertoire. Hey, like, have you heard this composer? Have you heard these pieces? Trying to get them to broaden their horizons, because I think, at least what I see in where I'm teaching, a lot of students just want to play the standard repertoire. And even like amongst the standard repertoire, a very limited version of the standard
Oh,
interesting. And I'm like,
yeah.
have you do you know any Zhimanovsky? Have you any, no, who's that? And, and I don't know I don't know nearly enough that I
Well, we
think about
can't-
postmodern
yeah.
stuff,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I just want to, I appreciate when my teachers asked me, oh, did you heard this piece? And so I try to do that too. And some of them take well to it. Some of them bring things in. I'm like, oh, you actually chose this piece. Good. Whereas others just bring the, same Beethoven sonatas in. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. We'll work on that. That's great. But
right.
yeah.
And then plant some seeds and see
Right,
where they go,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very curious where you draw your inspiration from today with your playing. Like if you have blank
Sure.
time with the piano, what will you do?
Oh, if I have time with the piano. Well, I have 2 kids now, so that's generally no. Time for the piano is not blank.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still do. I do a lot of transcriptions. I actually recently finished Sorcerer's Apprentice, Paul Dukas.
Really?
But I
Oh,
haven't
how
learned it yet, so I
exciting.
need to. It's after I write it, I have to learn it and
okay,
pare it
that's
down and make
fascinating
sure
to
that
me.
I can play
Yeah.
it. And a lot of times, something that I think will work,
Mhm.
I sit down and actually like try to play it up to tempo, and I'm like, oh no, that's not going to work. I have to rework it. So there's a lot of editing actually that goes on.
Okay. So you're kind of draft one with that?
Yes,
so to
yeah,
speak?
definitely,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And so that and my kids like it. That's also why I arranged it, because they were listening to the
Yeah.
the Fantasia
Of
Mickey Mouse, so
course, yeah.
heard it a lot. So I made it. In terms of what inspires me these days is, I actually really love listening to like old timey pianists that we can't play like them anymore. It just doesn't work. Like Samson Francois or Cortot. Kind of like
Yeah.
inspired by Lowenthal.
Right.
Just kind of this spirit of music making that is really not up to modern standards of score adherence in a
Yeah.
way, but it is so captivating. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, the word that's in my head the most when I listen to these people play is like beguiling. The music just like
That's a
draws
great
you
word.
in.
Yeah.
And you don't even, it's like, they're not doing what's on the score, but it doesn't matter. It's so good.
Mhm.
And it's not, it doesn't, I'm sure they practiced it and planned it out, but it doesn't sound like it's precisely planned. It sounds
Mhm.
very spontaneous,
Mhm.
sounds very in the moment. And yet it all just like, you just want to keep listening more. You're like, oh, what he's going to do next? And that's sort of what inspires me these days. It's like,
Can I ask
Yeah.
an unfair question?
no, yeah, sure.
Okay. So, is that a problem with today?
I don't know if it's a problem. It's just the style of, it's
Just the
just how,
style. Should it be that way? I mean,
no, and I
Yeah.
think there's always, even like I have peers that I went to school with who were of that kind of more iconoclastic,
Mhm,
nature, and
mhm.
played things just completely out of style.
The
And
way
I
they
always
wish,
loved listening to them. It's
Yeah.
very, very inspiring in a different way. And for me, it's also attention, because I'm so logical, and I'm going to the score, that I'm always kind of finding the balance of like, what do I want it to sound like versus can I justify it from the score?
Right.
And also, especially with things that people play a lot, it's like, okay, this is how people usually play it. Is this really, like, if we go into the score and look at it, we don't need to do it that way. Now, sometimes I try things different ways. I'm like, no, actually, the way people do it, that's the most effective. It makes sense.
You end up agreeing
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
right. And that's fine. But I
Mhm.
think experimenting with those things allows you to come up with your own, opinions of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, to answer your question, I don't know if it's a problem. I think when you're in school, you learn how to do things, quote unquote, like,
The
in a
standard
box.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, I'm a firm believer that you need to know where the boundaries are, so
Mhm.
that when you break them, you know what you're doing, or
Right.
you know where you're breaking the
Yeah,
boundaries.
yeah.
You know how you're going outside the box. But if you don't know where the box is, then, then I don't think, I think it could be really scattered. It can just be kind of out of control.
Mhm.
So I do think it's necessary to go through that kind of training of like a little bit stifling.
Mhm.
I know it's, the problem is when people don't break out of it and don't, they're either in school for too long, or, that they don't, by their nature, they don't explore a lot and listen to a lot of other people play. They just kind of are practicing all day, practice, 8 hours all
Mhm.
day, and learn
They
these new
literally live in a
pieces.
box.
Yeah, yeah.
Too much in the practice
And
room. Yeah.
I think that goes even, I think for me, broader than just music and listening to other people play, but like life experiences and,
Mm.
going out and seeing the world, going to, it doesn't, I mean, whatever, people have different interests, right? But I feel like uh you it gives you a new perspective on interpreting music and what you're doing and you're practicing when you go out and absorb different things. Like I've been really fascinated. I watch basketball a lot. I grew up in LA, so I'm a Lakers fan, and
Mhm.
we're really bad this year. But I'm always you people talk a lot about in sports about things like warm up and visualization
Mhm.
and things like that.
Mhm.
And I think we forget a lot of times that playing any instrument is really an athletic thing. Different kinds of athletic things,
no,
small
indeed it is.
muscles,
Yep.
but even the mental
The mental
preparation,
training.
the
Yep.
visualization, the stamina,
Mhm.
the preparation, all that stuff um is very important, and can actually, it might be things that students already kind of know, or they know the teacher has said, but when you see it applied in something else, I think that inspires you. You're like, oh, it does work, and they're making millions of dollars, so maybe I should try it. And yeah, I'm just like, I don't know, like listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of law and politics podcasts. I listen to, um, there's, I've been reading a little bit more now,
Mhm.
and all these, not music. I do read some music books, but also things about, there's one called The Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, and it kind of, there's some music. Evelyn Glennie was featured in it, but it's about kind of how do people, um, that everyone has the potential to be, good, but how do you cultivate that potential, both individually and also in terms of societally and infrastructure and things like that. And all that is very important for music making, is yourself, and also music education,
Mhm.
and and presenters and all this stuff. It's all very important to keep in mind that we don't just practice piano, and if we play well, then that's okay. Because I mean, yeah, you have to play well, but you also have to be in the right place at the right time, know
Yeah.
the right
Yeah.
people, and then you showcase your skills. But if you don't have an opportunity to show the work that you've done, then I think it's really sad. And I know, I do have friends I went to school with who I feel that a little bit that way. Like, they're
Mhm.
fantastic musicians.
Mhm.
Um, but the right opportunity, maybe whether it's them not seeking it out or it just hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Is, that's just, it's hard. And so I maybe I knew a little bit about it when I was, going into conservatory, but I think I would have appreciated maybe more people drilling into me that it's not about how good you are as a musician to make it a career. Yeah. It's not just about how good you are.
Right.
And it's not just about playing classical stuff. It's not just about doing, what your
Mhm.
teacher said and stuff. It has to do with personality, who you know, how you
The world.
function
Yeah.
in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So one
yeah.
final question.
Sure.
How does piano inspire you?
How does piano inspire me? I love playing the piano. So when
Great
I was
answer.
choosing to do whether to go
Uh-huh.
into conservatory or to do a normal
Yeah.
academic college, the sensationalized version I tell people is, I asked myself, could I go a day without doing a problem set in math? Yeah, I can go many days without doing that.
Yeah.
Can I go a day without touching the piano? No. So that's
It's in your core. Yeah.
my fingers love it,
Mhm.
my ears love it, and I think my kids like it when I play. Although sometimes they're like, "Daddy, it's too loud. I can't hear whatever they're listening to." But I
The realities of life.
yeah, I
love
think
that.
it's nice,
Mhm.
especially for someone who's a little bit more introverted naturally,
Mhm.
having a vehicle to express yourself and to just, enjoy your emotions, especially when you're a teenager. I think that's a great time to just wallow on the piano and, turn off the lights and just be emo about it. That's very inspiring. And I think that's all of art, but I think when you're actively making it, is you are kind of acting out Chopin's life,
Mhm.
or what his mindset is, Beethoven's struggles. We can only imagine,
Mhm.
through the music, but you get to experience different lives
Mhm.
through music making.
Oh, that's lovely. Sean Chen, it's been a delight.
Thanks for having me.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.